Okay.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you everyone for coming out today. My name is Alex Cooley. If you don't know me, I am a consultant on ATC's team. I've been here for about 3.5 years. And today we're going to focus on cloud modernization with RapidScale. If you saw the XaaS session recently, we had a panelist on there as well. So without further ado, I'll introduce Bryon and let you take it away.
Thanks, Alex. Hey, welcome. Thank you. This is a great turnout. Who was in there, heard the, saw the SASE panel, SASE SD-WAN. How'd Michael do, by the way? What do you guys think? Yeah? Yeah?
I was at least fourth on the list.
Yeah, that's good. Fourth is still last. So, Bryon Waters, Channel Support Manager for RapidScale. I handle Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee. I'm based out of Nashville. Been in the IT telecom space for 35 plus years. I actually was an engineer, but I forgot a lot since I became a salesperson, so that's why Michael's here to keep me honest. But I'll let Michael introduce himself. I know you did a little bit at the first, but
yeah, I probably rambled on. Yeah, so Michael's Wallace, Senior Solutions Engineer for RapidScale. I kind of came out of the data center side, so a lot of what we offer as a service is kind of my strong suit, whether it be compute, whether it be desktops. Obviously, we get involved with the SD-WAN and now kind of branded as SASE with ID management and endpoint management. But yeah, happy to be on board. I'm out of Dallas, but I've covered Bryon since he's been with us, and yeah, I think we've done a pretty good penetration in this market. But we've only gotten up here a couple times. But we're happy to be here to work with ATC. They're a great partner.
Great partner. Who's working with ATC now as either a customer or maybe a new? Anybody? Okay, 3 or 4 of you guys. That's good. Well, they're a great partner. Lots of resources, obviously. They pull us in when they fit a particular application or a problem that customer's trying to solve. But we're going to talk about cloud modernization, XaaS, or everything as a service. So, when you guys hear the word cloud, what does that mean to you? The word cloud, just yell it out.
Someone else's data center.
Somebody else's data center, right? Anything else?
Decentralized.
Decentralized, good. Distributed. Anybody else? So what about everything as a service? You guys know really what started the whole as a service in the business community was software as a service, right? SaaS, that was there at the beginning. But the as a service movement has it's just exploded. Everything basically is as a service. And we'll kind of break that down a little bit. But first of all, I want to show you kind of what this everything as a service reminds me of. So the Everything Bagel, Panera Bread. So I've had business meetings there for a long time. It's a great place to meet because it's fairly quiet, but got the Everything Bagel all the time, right? So one day I'm, and it satisfied me at that point. Had everything in it as opposed to a plain bagel. Had all the different components, very savory, right? One of the guys I was meeting with, he ordered something different. And I said, what is that? He said, that's a cinnamon crunch bagel from Panera. I'm seeing some heads being nodded, right? That I was like, oh, well, that looks interesting. He let me try a little bit of it, and I have totally switched over from that. So what I'm saying is this is going to be educational, maybe broaden your horizons about as a service, as an offering, and there's many different options there. Whether it's an everything bagel, whether it's a single cinnamon crunch, wonderful, luscious bagel with cream cheese on it, there are things that every company needs in how their business, how they want it to run, right? Everybody's different. We talk to customers every day, and everybody does something a little different. Even our main solution is a Microsoft 365 offering and infrastructure as a service, a VMware offering with data protection. But within those things, it's not a cookie cutter deal. Every company has a different variation of how they want that. And that's really what we're talking about is business outcomes. That's what we gear towards. And Michael alluded to that a little bit in the SASE panel. But that's the direction kind of we're going today. And so broaden your horizons. Let's understand from a cloud or an everything as a service offering what that means to the industry. I'm just going to read it because it's a pretty good definition. Some of you guys have already hit on some of the points, but it's a collective term that describes anything as a service. It encompasses many products, tools, and technologies that vendors deliver, vendors being companies like RapidScale. There's others out here. Flexential, I actually worked at Flexential 3 years ago, great company. They have similar product offerings. You've got cybersecurity offerings out there. So those are vendors that deliver user as a service over a network, typically the internet. We've heard about SD-WAN as an alternate for them to be providing it themselves on-prem or locally in the office. This one down here is really good, but it's a pay-as-you-go or pay-as-you-use type of service. So more OpEx versus CapEx. So you're paying a monthly fee versus buying the hardware itself, okay? Does that make sense? Everybody, we're on track there? This market is going into the stratosphere. In 2021, they're still working on 2022, but 2021 is a $245 billion company. And these companies here, you guys will have access to this presentation, but these are the big guys: Adobe, AWS, AT&T, Cisco, IBM. I mean, these are massive companies where this data came from. And there's a lot more driving these numbers, but it's anticipated, and it probably will blow that out too, but $1.2 trillion by 2030. I mean, it's at that pace. So what that means is if you haven't entertained it, and we're not going to do a show of hands, but if you haven't entertained a pay-as-you-go or as a service model for some or maybe all companies, some companies are going completely cloud or hosted or as a service. You need to at least be looking at it and talk to somebody about it, whether it's RapidScale, whether it's other providers out here. There's a lot of good companies, a lot of good friends of ours that we compete, but we also cooperate because there's some things that we don't do as well as others. So talk to the vendors. Make sure you understand what the climate is and what they can do for you. And again, our approach, we'll talk about at the end, is kind of really what RapidScale does and offers, but and it'll be a small component of this presentation, but it's like we understand. Michael hit it on the head. I don't know if you heard him in the SASE panel. I'm going to give him cred here. He said, where are your applications and where are your users? And everything starts from there, right? Okay. You guys see anything on here that is familiar to you? This just kind of explodes the as a service models. Like, I mean, everything is pretty much available online. One thing that really hit me was, you guys remember the movie in 1995, it was the movie called The Net with Sandra Bullock. Do you remember that scene? Well, she's a programmer, and she's sitting in this dark room programming on the screen, and she pulls up Pizza Hut online and orders a pizza online and had it delivered. She picked the toppings she wanted and all that. And that was my first glimpse of as a service from ordering a pizza. Now you can call and order pizza back then, but that was the first time that I saw that. It was 30 years ago roughly. So it's been coming that long, and it's just going to only accelerate. So these are some of the common terms as a service type offerings. You've got the infrastructure, you've got security, you've got software, which is the mainstay. Desktop as a service. Anybody doing that? VDI? You doing it yourself, or Somebody's doing it for you? Great. Network as a service, I think CBTS maybe even doing a session here. Database as a service, storage, platform as a service, DRAS, data protection. Then you get into voice platforms. Anybody know what this one is? MAS? M as a service? Malware as a service. Hackers have a platform where they can go and get malware and try to take companies out with that. So it's everywhere. These are some of the things that that come with, and we're going to talk about the pros of going to an as a service model, and also the cons. I want to give equal billing here, because from a customer perspective, there are probably things that you're already thinking about. You know, I don't want to give up control. Those things. We'll cover that. These are some of the positives that we've seen as we work with clients, and these are more industry-wide. It allows you to scale quicker. If your company is on a trajectory of growth, it allows you to scale a lot quicker, because if you've got on-prem hardware like servers, storage, those kind of things, you're limited until you get that next box. I don't know what the supply chain issues are now, but last year, it took 6 months to get hardware. I've got a customer I'm putting SD-WAN in, the customer I'm putting a infrastructure as a service and backup as a service offering for them, and they use another provider for SD-WAN, I won't say who, but taking 2 months to get their SD-WAN edge box. And so those are supply chain issues that you guys are faced with, right? So let the managed service providers who have that infrastructure and that equipment already in place, they'll partition off that environment for you so you can load your applications on, provide that server architecture, and it scales really easy. It can grow with your business. It can also ebb and flow, right? Reduce and augment. Cost is usually, it depends. Sometimes if you're a large environment and you've got a large staff, having your own on-premise hardware, the business requirements dictate that they like to be more CapEx operating from a financial standpoint. It's hard to get around that. We play really well, and I'm just talking about ourselves because there's other folks who play a little bit different in the space, but we play really well where there's more of a lean IT staff. They've got a couple guys or gals that are doing a lot for the organization, right? So they're very lean. So where we augment that with the managed approach of our managed service offering. And that's with most MSPs that offer the as a service. Now when you get into AWS, Google, Azure, that's where you're going to need engineers that really know what they're doing when you're dealing with environments like that. And we'll talk about how we address that later. But having a couple of these things removed off your plate allows you to focus on core competencies, help grow the business as opposed to running with your hair on fire, right? Anybody relate to that? It also allows you to take advantage. I can't tell you how many times we talk to customers that are, they've got hardware that's 10 years old, and they know that they have to do something about it, but every year the budget goes by and they're still on the same hardware. So this allows you to take advantage of higher technology, more quality services, because that's what the MSPs are offering. Better customer and end user experience come as a result of that, because you can focus on the core business. Let companies like RapidScale take over end user support. How about that? So they don't have to call you every time we're opening a ticket. You have access to them as an admin. So to get them support when they need it, and where it doesn't take you away from that line of business stuff that you need to be focused on. Any questions? I should be asking questions every slide here, but any questions on that? these are some of the technology trends that we're seeing in the marketplace. Cybersecurity knowledge gap. Anybody raise their hand there? I mean, I can for sure. We've got stuff that we have to do at RapidScale. That's one aspect of our business that we're shoring up. It's on the roadmap for this year. But just generally, there are some things that we can that are available, but there's a lot of other companies out there that can help in that area. Anybody have compliance issues that you've got to maintain as a result of your infrastructure? Right? So those are key also. Right sizing support for remote and hybrid work. Show of hands, who has remote workers? Probably about 80% of you. So if you don't have remote workers, you probably will in the future, because what we're seeing in the marketplace is that remote work, the employee candidate pool, they're the ones leveraging and driving what they want, and they want to work remotely. They want to work from home or in another state. They don't want to pack up their families and move. And so those kind of things that we're seeing are driving a lot of this. I think Michael touched on that as well in the panel. That's a big one. And that all started with COVID, right? And it has been a shift, and it pushes those security concerns. How do you access the network? How do you control it? How do you give the users the same experience they had sitting at their desk when the server was right down the hall? Those are type of things. So how do we do that and make sure that user experience, I think, I just keep referring back to the panel because it's really good, the latency issue. When that end user clicks that button, how long has he got to wait for that response from his application, right? So where's that application sit? Now that we've gone to an as-a-service model. Those are considerations that we take into account when we look for those business outcomes and how it impacts that. The enabling new and flexible ways to work kind of dovetails with that one. Cost optimization versus pure cost cutting. That's what we like to talk to customers about. Let's optimize your cost structure. Let's not replace people with our managed service offering. Let's get them doing something that is going to grow and add to the business, as opposed to letting them go because I'm hiring RapidScale to take care of my infrastructure. It also allows you the digital business acceleration. I was talking to somebody earlier, and just that push for companies to move to more digital. I just helped my daughter buy a car. And I just still cannot believe that, there's like 20 pages of paper you got to sign, and even buying a house. When are we going to get to, we do DocuSign for all our contracts now. There's no paper exchange. At some point, everybody's going to be moving there, right? And we still have faxes, for crying out loud. So eventually we'll get there, maybe. I don't know. And supply chain, right? That's huge. In what happened during COVID and how that broke. So we're seeing more and more companies in these areas starting to look at as a service, as a way to do business, because it allows them to respond to market trends quickly. So this is from our leader, Dwayne Barnes, who runs RapidScale. This was a podcast that he did with Avant, who's one of our larger partners. And this quote that he said, it's very true, because when we talk to companies, everybody has a different definition of what cloud means, right? Everybody. And really that discussion, we have to take it down to the bare bones level. So we get customers who say, I want to have a DR plan for my company. So we have a product called DRaaS, DR as a service. But that product's not necessarily going to fit what in his mind, he thinks DR is. So we have a conversation with you as a client, and we say, what specifically is driving that need? What do you want to restore? How do you want to restore? There's a lot of questions that kind of formulate that definition of disaster recovery, right? And oh, by the way, as your time to restore goes down, your cost goes up, right? So where does that fit in the financial aspect of it? So there's all those considerations when you're talking about a specific area of cloud or as a service. And I thought that was just a good quote. I don't think we'll ever get away from cloud. I mean, hell, if you see my business cards out here, it's on a freaking cloud. So we're still identify ourselves as a cloud company, only because it's here and it's probably going to be here for a while. But it gets us thinking. You're changing the narrative. Like RapidScale we're going to rebrand here shortly, just FYI, and so a lot of the swag out here is not as great as it could be. Apologize. So they're cleaning out their closets, I think, when the marketing sent it over. But we're moving more to hey, we're here to simplify IT for companies. And it's more of an IT as a service, which encompasses all of these things that we're talking about. So, yeah, move away from cloud. I wonder how much we're doing on time. So, are you guys seeing these things as you deal with the forces that impact IT, specifically your areas? Are all you guys in IT, or is it usually the IT guys come to this thing? Is anybody else outside of IT more maybe? Okay, so like more business related, owner, finance. Good. We love to have the finance guys in here. When you understand it, then it helps the overall organization. Because it's hard for IT guys to relate. I need this. Why? Well, let me bring RapidScale and we'll sit down and talk about it, right? But this is the biggest one. War for talent. We're right in the middle of that right now. Right at the end of the year, a lot of people got laid off, so there is a little bit of more employee or candidates out there for employment. Security landscape. Anybody have to have an insurance policy for cybersecurity? Yeah. Okay. That's huge. I got a contact in Nashville, and she's overwhelmed with the amount of. I mean, you just got to have it from a compliance standpoint, and those are things that we run into constantly, and it's a part of the story. So you want a DR approach, or you want to, as a service offering, what does your company need from a compliance standpoint? What are the hurdles you have to overcome? Do you have to do an audit every year? I mean, we get into that level of understanding the business so we can understand what the outcome needs to be. All right, so here we are. Pros and cons. I'm going to need my notes for this part. So pros. We talked about scalable already. Less technical overhead. So I heard early on somebody else's data center is an as-a-service model. That's true. Everybody has a data center, even if it's in a closet, a server sitting on a table in the closet, right? But the overhead for if it's a larger data center, maybe a rack, you've got power, cooling. Maybe there's an air conditioner in there, or you're in a real data center. I don't say real, but you know what I mean, like a tier 2, tier 3 facility that somebody else owns, and your equipment's in a rack there, and you pay a monthly fee to. So you're kind of paying data center as a service. That I would call that data center as a service. But those things can go away. You can redeploy that space if you got 5 racks in a room, make it an office or whatever, or completely come out of the building. When I was at Flexential, I've only been here at RapidScale for just under a year. When I was at Flexential during COVID, there was probably 5 of my existing customers that left the office space, gave back, subleased it, and gave back and went fully remote. So that's happening as well. And then an as-a-service model really works in that case, right? It becomes more cost-effective because of the OpEx part of it. If your company is, and your finance guy is okay with an OpEx model. Some companies and how their finances are approached, and we'll just have to ask you why that is, but from a capital standpoint versus an OpEx standpoint, what are the benefits there? And
easier to budget.
Easier to budget for a CapEx. OpEx. Okay. Unless you're in AWS and you overuse your subscription with them, right? Then that'll throw the budget out a little bit. So those are things that we know. And so we try to stay ahead of those when we're asking questions. Is it okay to have a budget overrun because your public cloud environment is, technical support. Where this comes really into play is we've already talked about how we can get you guys focused, or your technicians or your engineers focused on ensuring that the IT is not a cost drain, but adds to the profitability of the organization. Get them out of the field or working with trouble tickets, patching, software assignments, changing whatever, Windows updates, whatever it is. Get them out of that and get them focused on stuff that really makes the company money, and let other organizations do that for an OpEx or a monthly fee as a part of the service. And it's usually baked in. Here's some cons. Security and compliance concerns, so the company that you're looking at, do they have the legitimate platform that's secure and compliant? That they're not going to have a ransomware or cybersecurity attack, right? So you have to worry about yourself, but I got to worry about somebody that I'm looking at. So you ask those questions, and you look for organizations that have the right compliance, the high trust, the SOC compliance, the PCI, whatever those things are. Even from a government, any government folks here? No? Okay. Because that's a whole different ball game. But you look for those things so that you're assured that you're not going to have problems by going to somebody and using their model, right? I'm going to lose control of my heart. I can't hug my server anymore and every morning, and I can't see the green light blinking, and so that's a valid concern, and that's one that we hear a lot. And how we get around that, Nick kind of poo-pooed it in the panel. He said, "I'm glad you didn't say SPOG, single pane of glass," but that's really the tool that allows you that visibility and that control. If a company does it right, the right APIs to control the information, to give you real-time stats, so you log in and see the health of your network or your servers, those kind of things. That's what you want to look for. Availability and resilience issues. Do they have a single cloud node, or if I go to AWS or Azure, am I multi-zoned, right? Do I have a diverse play for my applications to be able to fail over to another area if I need to? What's your business continuity plan? Make sure you have that conversation with vendors that can walk alongside you to create that business continuity plan for your business. Vendor lock-in. So you go to somebody like RapidScale, and we give you a great rate, but it's on a 3-year term. So that locks me in. I don't like to be locked in, right? So that is a valid concern we hear as well. So just make sure that you're having those conversations of what does your business need up front from a contractual standpoint or a term standpoint, and hopefully they'll work with you. Yeah?
A lot of those cons can be pros.
Say what?
A lot of those cons can be pros.
They can
So
be.
if you are a smaller company,
Yeah.
I can't provide that security. They've got the budget and the tools to make that happen.
Right.
The lack of controls, yeah, I don't see that green button, the green light. But my big concern is I hate seeing all the red lights. I want somebody else to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about that anymore.
How about somebody calls you and tell you there's a red light, right?
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Availability, you're talking about people on 10 years of machines, 10 years old. Yeah, when everything going to break down.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that anymore. So a lot of those pros can be turned into cons.
Yeah, for guys that are rolling the dice like that, I mean, it happens all the time. I'm not berating anybody because I know the struggles that IT teams have with, a business that's trying to go a certain direction and the budget changes and, well, you can't get your server again this year. And I get it. So let the companies that do run that model, and they have to have an environment that's up to snuff and technology ready or capable, right, for today's environment. So based on all that, now we're in an everything as a service conversation, right? I mean, that before I get into the RapidScale commercial, how are we doing on time? We're good? Okay. So before I get into the RapidScale side of it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about what we do or how we do it, I want to be agnostic as possible. There's a lot of good companies out here and just out. If I'll tell you what, if we can't do something and we don't do it well, we'll tell you. That there's other providers that might do that better, and we'll often point them out. Companies like ATC, they know what works and what doesn't for suppliers like us. So use them as a guide, right? So any questions about as a service I didn't cover, didn't hit? Michael will answer all your questions. But he will, yeah.
So what makes a successful implementation of this? Like what from our side because my fear is to go to this type of service and then the users say it's crap and you gotta go back to like an on-prem. So what should we prepare to help prepare to make it successful implementation?
You want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's our process. So it's overused phrase. It's not easy, right? All right, we make it easy for you to deploy the solution and manage it.
Sure.
So you're not caught up in every day. But in terms of the implementation, it really is a scoping and sizing on the pre-sale side. Then when we actually get a agreement from you, we have a process that assigns a project manager, cloud engineering resources that will stay with you through the project. We'll also stay on it as well. But that's the special sauce, and then we're consultative on the front end to really ask all those questions that we have already run into. Because here's the thing, what drives what I do on the front end of an agreement is the learned experiences from our cloud engineers on the back end. So I'll talk about solutions and try to solve your problem. Then I'll come in afterwards and say, hey, I just want to make sure I button all this up. I've got all these things I'd like to run through just to make absolutely sure all good here, all good here. Those are the steps that say that we have a really good chance to have not just a success, but a managed response to getting to that success. Then on top of that, there are complications to set in. There are things that you're not aware of about your environment. You didn't know, you become aware of it. It does happen. What you have is a team on the phone that's actually, we're there, not because we're trying to just sell your product and leave, but we're trying to actually, in most cases, we're selling you one of our, or two of our products. We expect to land and expand. We expect to get more of your, that's a common thing that Bryan's able to do is put customers in touch with reference customers that say, yeah, here's the deal. I trusted them with this, and I'll get compliments on the cloud, not on me, but on the cloud implementation engineering team. It says those people are rock stars to work with. And if you had those type of staff members on your team, it'd be great. That's what I was kind of referencing when I was on the SASE panel. It's like a 15 or 20-year-old aspect of having those resources in your organization. They just don't exist out there in the market. They've all been gobbled up by the cloud providers. So that's what it is. It's the implementation that stays targeted. We've done it before. We try to ask all the questions up front, and then we can pivot and dynamically change as you uncover things in your environment. But it's a big thing to take on putting this with someone and giving away control on something you manage. But at least on something you manage today, you have an expectation of it. If you're buying off a new service, like a common thing is a virtualized desktop, people don't necessarily have that today. It's going to be all new to you. So some of those struggles will be new to you, but they're not new to us.
So
To add to what Michael stated, change management is really important. Simple terms.
Yeah.
Especially talking to end users.
I
Yeah.
think two things. It's the relationship with the vendor. They can have some of the best process and that type of stuff, but if you don't have that strong relationship to tackle those issues.
why is it doing that?
That is very big for me.
Like not touching it.
And then the other thing is setting expectations with end users. Things are going to change. And letting them understand what the pros and cons are, more communication you get to them, more successful projects.
Yeah, one thing that we do, this thing's on auto, it's moving by itself. I don't know why. So let me just go back. So we have a statement of work that we do that if there's things about business outcomes that or usability that are big concerns, like we sold that one customer. I told you that they had an issue with, well, your data centers or your cloud nodes are a little bit further away than our servers that are right next to our users. How's the latency going to be? Well, we gave them IP addresses that they could run a ping test or whatever that satisfied that. So there's things that we can do. We just need to know them up front, what those business drivers are. And I think most companies are going to do that. But the cool one thing I like about RapidScale when I came on to them is they walk through. Once we solution, we design, we go back to your requirements, making sure that we hit all of them, and then we say, yeah, we're in love with each other, we're going to get into a relationship. Then at that point, Michael steps in again. He's there the whole process, but he steps in and he goes, okay, we're going to sit on a call for an hour or whatever it takes, and we're going to walk through, I got to build this statement of work. And that statement of work says, these are your responsibilities as a customer or information that we need as a part of this, and these are ours. And we put that into the contract. So it's a signed agreement. Now we can change it, and it's flexible, but so exactly going into that relationship that what you're going to get. And hopefully we've done a good job of overcoming some of the challenges that maybe are kind of a tipping point for you if something were bad to happen, that we solve those up front or address them up front. And if we don't, shame on us, But those are the conversation, the level of conversation that we have. So, or we try to. So some customers, they come in and they have an agenda, and that's great. But we will always try to maneuver. You, Mr. Customer, you have in your mind what you believe this needs to be. But from our experience, can we ask you a couple more questions just to help us get in line with what you're thinking? And then, because again, not every service will fit every single customer. Yeah.
How easy or how hard, or what are the pain points of moving from one cloud provider to another cloud provider once you're in the cloud?
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of migration and time to do that. I'll leave it to Michael because he's done this a little bit more from an implementation standpoint than I have. But we set up the environment to mirror what you have, moving from one cloud provider to another, and what's working, what's not, to make sure that our environment is set based on your applications and your needs as your business needs them. And then it's just a schedule of migrating the data over based on scheduled maintenance windows, that kind of thing.
All right, so a couple things. I've run into cases where you're with a provider and you really don't have a kind of a global admin, right? You don't have the capability to actually let them see things for the discovery process, so I can scope things properly, or even the ability to change. So often it's involved with you let a provider know you're leaving, and in your way out the door, you'd like to have access to everything, because that's one reason why you leave, because you didn't have access to begin with. We always provide access to everything in our building. The other thing, there'll be some technology challenges based upon how the implementation was done. It's very similar to our discovery process that we do when you're on premise and we're going to move you to the cloud. Well, there's easy tools to do that we typically utilize, and there's some times when those tools aren't available to us based on your specific scenarios. So we have other ways to do it. So we don't get out in front and try to solve all that to a detail, because there's always a fallback plan. But I would say the biggest thing is just having access in your environment and making sure that you know every piece that's available to you that's out there. Every piece of I guess every resource that you have out there, you've got to have an understanding of, and that's probably a little bit of a an objection or a headwind against changing. Why not just leave where it is? But that's what everybody has with every change they do. And it's you start to investigate it, and is it worth more trouble than it's worth? And the answer, of course, is yes.
Well, with that being, talking more infrastructure as a cloud, everything is a cloud. Yes, that's the infrastructure piece, but I've got also this piece and this cloud, and this piece and this cloud, and this piece and this cloud, and this piece and this cloud.
Yeah.
All that staying there as well also.
Well, to be honest, like I see more of a particular application in your environment going to the application vendor decided they're going to make a cloud-based version of their app. So they put it in Azure, but you have no control over where it is. You just know that you're a consumer of that cloud application. The problem is that you have other resources that can't move side by side with that because of the way that application vendor deployed their cloud version of that application. So we try to take more of a generic point of view and move everything. But I don't know this. I can't imagine. You could elaborate a little bit more. I can't imagine the scenario you're talking about that has gotten in our way. My biggest challenge is whether or not we're going to have easy access to the underlying resources to actually move the data around and using the typical tool sets we do. Again, kind of what we hinted at before, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. We'll find a way. It's just some things are more standard and easy, and some things are a little bit more of a, add another 2 weeks to a migration project.
And but as you move forward, all I'm hearing is like, okay, so we need a good container API microservices strategy, basically, when you're deploying into the new environment, so the next time you don't run into that issue.
Well, it's hard. I mean, like we try to discover our value in your organization by being a managed service provider. Actually, I don't know if you threw up the 3 tiers of management, but it's the share together responsibility. It's we do everything, and you obviously have access. Or we have some customers that really just want us as a platform environment. They still want to administer everything. So all 3 of those options are available to us. When we sell that, we're trying to talk about. I think of an MSP I'm going to get that says your mess for less. They would try to take on what you had, but you weren't really aware of what access you'd have to it until you were in production. Then you thought it was very strange that you had no view into a firewall, because it turns out that that's not a firewall dedicated to you. That's a multi-tenant firewall that they don't have the ability to provide access to you as a customer to manage. So those are the things you run into, whether or not it's a truly multi-tenant environment where you have access to everything you need as a new.
So I don't have that slide, but yeah, our model is everything we sell is fully managed, or
but not excluding you, and that's
right.
That's what I run into.
Right, or we can scale back if you guys want to have certain control aspects of it.
Yeah. Common thing is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the virtual desktop model, but basically create master images and then spun those off, and then lo and behold, the customer wants to change providers, but they have no access to any of the work that they've done over the years to get the image to where it is. So that's almost, that's fine. That's a start at ground zero. What do? I put agents on a desktop and discover what's out there, and then I propose
Yep.
a solution.
If customers will let us, that's the best way. So we actually see how the data is performing in the environment today. Any more questions?
It sounds like you do a lot of things in the desktop arena as a service. Do you have clients, I've definitely had some clients who are just saying, hey, I want you to do this. I have 20 new people that I need to have remotely in the field. Do you get involved both from a software and hardware, kind of a turnkey?
Yeah, well, we
Or
did.
how they-
We kind of jumped in that business for a while, called it managed devices as a service, and
Yeah.
what the concept behind it was two different things. And we're a 365 supplier, so
Sure.
we can control that SaaS-based application, which almost every worker out there, remote worker, knowledge worker has. But then when you get to a desktop, we were kind of in a managed device to ship a device out that would easily communicate and be pre-configured to talk to a virtual desktop.
Sure.
We have all the controls in the world. What we ran into was a supply chain problem.
Oh.
So when we ran into that, and as we brought that market forward, got a lot of excitement behind it, we're like, yeah, it's going to take 180 days for you to get it done.
Contracts went.
So that hurt us. So long as I don't think there's a current plan with the other products we have, but the answer a lot of times to that is falling back to our remote desktop. Remote desktop means bring your own device. You get to it any way you want. We don't care. We'll lock down that desktop where you can't do any sharing to whatever device they're connecting it from. But that actually, once you eliminate that, what do they say? They don't say, when people go, they say discontinuing separation. Separation from your employee or your contractor, you immediately can cut off access to that, even if you never get a device back.
Yeah.
So,
All right, very good. Thank you.
So that's a great segue. This kind of talks about RapidScale and where we started, and this kind of validates. Okay, if you're kind of considering doing something, and maybe RapidScale might fit, or at least we should have a conversation. We were founded in 2008. We were the first in the channel. We actually founded on desktop as a service. That was our first product or offering. Back in the day, it was Citrix. We expanded from the US nodes into Asia and Europe. Citrix awards. Then we were acquired in 2018 by Cox Business, $24 billion family-run organization. So although we are, yeah, this has got a timer on it or some kind of flipper on it. We are? Okay. So we've got the financial backing from a Cox perspective, even though we are nimble and golly. VMware SD-WAN, recognized by VMware as a provider. The SaaS solution launched in 2022. The most recent one this year, LogicWorks. We purchased LogicWorks, which is a professional managed cloud solution organization that if you want to go into the public cloud space, LogicWorks can help you get there from your infrastructure. These are the products that we offer. We kind of talked through all of this already, but we can cover a lot of different services. I'm not going to go into this as kind of a model. We already kind of talked through that. But these are some questions. You guys have access to this presentation. We'll make it available. Download it. These are some of the things that if your supplier that you're talking to about a problem that you're having or you want to solve, if they're not asking these types of questions, then talk to somebody else. That's kind of where I want to leave it. It's somebody who wants to solve your business outcomes as opposed to trying to shove you into one of their products and make you fit into theirs. We should fit into your business mindset and your outcomes that you want to have as an organization. And you can scan me if you want. This will take you to my page. It has my email, phone numbers, that kind of thing. So thank you. We appreciate you coming.
All right, thanks everyone. The next session in this room will will be expedient, but RapidScale is right outside, so if you want to further some conversation, stop by the booth.